podcast retentions are generally much higher than YouTube videos. And when I say retention,
Yeah.
it's per episode, what's the percentage that people are listening to, right?
In the past few years, I've interacted with a lot of creators. These are designers, writers, video editors, podcasters, filmmakers across these diverse spectrum. But what really separates a creator is when they are either building a fan base and when they are building a community. The difference between them is when you're building a community, every member, every listener is equally engaged with the content as much as the creator. That is something that this duo, Sahil and Siddharth, are doing with their podcast, The Indian Dream. And today on this episode, we talk to them about how not just they are skyrocketing on the Apple charts and all the different charts on this podcast platform, but also how they are building a community around their podcast. They also have a newsletter. They have a WhatsApp group with more than like 1,500 people who are entrepreneurs, investors, aspiring creators, and entrepreneurs. And they engage with each one of them who listen to their podcasts. Let's try to understand how they do this and how they run their show in this 20-second episode of Pepper Spotlight podcast. My name is Pawan Rochwani, and this episode is going to be something that every brand builder or content creator can really learn from and understand and maybe implement a few ideas as well from this. Listen till the end of this episode and you know why I'm saying this. This conversation with Sahil and Siddharth was pre-recorded. So you listen to that from your onwards. That's the most stupid thing that Zoom has done. Like we know that. But yes. Thank you so much, Sahil and Siddharth, for giving us your time today. And everyone who's watching this on YouTube, please, this was not pre-decided that we'll have a dress code for this conversation. This was very impromptu and spontaneously that has happened. But both of you, thank you so much for being on this conversation. I'm really, really curious and excited to talk about your podcast and everything around your content journey.
Pawan, we've done 100 episodes on our podcast, and I just realized this is the first time we are on the other side. So yeah, thanks for inviting us to Pepper Spotlight. This is super exciting.
Seriously,
Yeah,
I'm serious.
we've never been on somebody else's podcast before.
Wow, new things. I really love this. So, in the last few episodes, sometimes, so Chaitanya Kataria, he announced something about Gully Gang. There is Pranav Panpalia, he announced something on his episode, and today it's like a good thing that you guys are doing this for the first time. Um, Siddharth, I've read your LinkedIn article about how you've explained it, how you guys started this show. But just to set the context of this conversation, why don't you like just walk us through some snippets and bits of that article or the journey of how did you guys start up the podcast?
Sure. So the entire journey sort of started about a year back, I think June 2020. But the seed sort of had been sown before that. It's important to understand my thought process and where I came from, and that's the reason TID happened. Part of the reason TID happened was I lived in the Bay Area. I lived in Bangalore, and all I could hear was venture capital money and a lot of my venture capital money being flown into different startups, valuations, that's TechCrunch, your stories of the world, and all of that, right? I moved to Gurgaon in 2017 and started working at a fintech which worked with a lot of SMEs. And these were SMEs doing 20 crores to 250 crores in revenue, profitable, some niche business that you and I wouldn't have heard of sitting in Bangalore, Silicon Valley on your story or TechCrunch. And that sort of gave me that light bulb idea on why are these stories not out there, right? Most of the business media was either focused on these large, Reliance and Ambani's, Adani's of the world, or on the other end, all these startups, valuations, unicorns, and that fat middle of Indian SMEs was, I think, sort of missing. I think
Yeah.
that's what we realized. And very serendipitously, what happened? Sahil and I went to college together 10 years back, and during the lockdown, I was basically on a sabbatical with nothing to do. So I was reaching out to people that I'd known but hadn't spoken to for a while. And Sahil and I connected on LinkedIn, and we got talking about podcasting, communities, and different things. And one of the things that we agreed on was this idea of business media or business news is just over-indexed on extremes, nothing on the fat middle. Sahil runs his own mid-sized business in exports. So we gelled well on that front and realized there was something here. Without overthinking it, I think 3 weeks later we had put our first episode, and the first episode was actually me interviewing Sahil. We had done 3 takes of that, so 3 different versions of what the podcast could look like, and the third one eventually made it live. But it was me interviewing Sahil about his business, and that's how the journey started. We've evolved significantly since then, but that's really how it started.
And now that first episode is our most downloaded episode ever. Because I guess people just go to the first one and listen to it. I don't know why.
Yeah. I'm gonna do that right after this recording. And but something I wanted to ask you was, in the first wave of this COVID 19 and the first lockdown, I try to do this that I will call some of my friends, like schedule calls with them, and just catch up with them. I did that almost like one friend every day, and then also school friend, college friend, and all of that. And both of us really try. I mean, like the people that I was speaking to, we tried to fix up on something that let's catch up, or let's start this. You're doing, and trying to find synergies between what they're doing right now and what I was doing. But none of those things really sort of materialized and went ahead and got some output. And I see a lot of time this happens. Tell me, how did you guys, after 10 years of gap, or speaking to each other, how did you talk about an idea and then really also initiated it and did that? Because not always this happens. I'm very sure you guys must be talking to a lot of folks right now who were your school friends, college friends, but those ideas don't materialize. How did you really, was there like accountability between both of you, that you take this up, I will do the recording part, I'll do the scripting part? How was it? How did you materialize this?
So we were not actually friends, by the way. When he said that we knew each other 10 years ago, I think we had met one time in college and then we never spoke again. So we were never really friends. This was probably the second time in our lives that we were speaking to each other. And after our initial conversation, half an hour later, Siddharth sent me a thesis on what the show should look like. And then after that, we decided to go with what we like to call bias towards action. So whatever we decide to do, rather than thinking about it too much, because both of us are very in our minds and think a lot, and we decided to bias towards action. Every time we thought about something, we just went ahead and did it. And throughout our entire journey, we just keep experimenting and we just keep trying different things. And I'll tell you, this is something also that I've learned from interviewing, like, I don't know how many entrepreneurs we've interviewed now, maybe like 50, 60, 70, 80, something like that. We always ask them at the end of the show, would you recommend some book? Would you recommend some content for somebody to become a good entrepreneur like you are? Every single one of them says, yeah, I recommend this book. But more than the books, what's more important is just go out and try. Once you go out and try, then you will realize whether you can do that or not. So it was this bias towards action, which is why I guess we've gotten to where we are now. Yeah.
And to add to that, I think one of the things that you asked, we set clear responsibilities on Sahil's going to take up all the technical part. What does it take to get a podcast live? I'll focus on the content. And we gave ourselves a deadline. I think we first spoke June 20th, somewhere around that. And we gave ourselves a deadline of July 13th, July 20th. We were off by 4 or 5 days. But the idea was, I think there was that accountability aspect, where, as Sahil said, we were not really friends. So there was that accountability that you don't want to let the other person down. You've discussed something, you've put yourself accountable, let's go out and make it happen. If it was too good a friend, I think sometimes that plays against the whole idea of getting started, because you take it lightly and you just never get started. The fact that we got started so quickly was a key reason. Beyond that, just staying consistent, all of that was much easier. The fact that we got started was one of the biggest hurdles, I think.
Yeah. And how did you guys decide? Okay, you have the idea, you have the synergies that both of you are in the business space and similar, let's say, industry categories and all of that. But how did you decide that as a content property, you want to start the podcast? Why not a YouTube channel or a blog or a website, or let's say a Facebook group or a Facebook page or an Instagram page? Why did you start a podcast?
So
I just put one thing here. When you know that old phrase, when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. because we listen to so many podcasts, that's why we thought like, oh my god, podcasts are the most amazing thing. But if I were to go back, I would think again about whether podcast is the best thing. Yeah, but anyway, Siddharth, what do you want to add?
Okay, once again, why do you say so? Like,
So we'll get to that. We'll get to that on the distribution aspect and everything.
Okay.
But as Sahil said, I think the idea was we were consuming a lot of podcasts and we were getting a lot of value out of it. But most of the podcasts that we were consuming were US based, right? US based
Yeah.
startup and business podcasts, and we realized
Yeah.
that nobody was talking India specific things, right? So that was the thesis: bring it to India focus and do a podcast. If we go back in time, we would have still done the same thing. I think it's just that we would have probably done video or YouTube much sooner or started off on that, because YouTube discovery is much more powerful than podcast
Yeah.
discovery. We lucked out on a bunch of things along the journey in terms of podcasts. If not for those, we might have been struggling with very low sort of listens and downloads because it's really hard to
Yeah.
get the podcast out there. That's the only thought.
Yeah, got it. And so now, so you guys did not do this on YouTube for a specific reason, or like you wanted it to be audio only? How was it?
Look at our faces, man. Look at our faces.
No, but I mean, look at my beautiful mustache. I think whoever's looking on YouTube will be like, how can that beautiful mustache not be on YouTube? But the main reason is this, that audio editing is much easier than video editing. We were just
Yeah.
the two of us, right? So even audio editing, usually for a 1 hour clip, we take about 3 hours to edit. So
Yeah,
for a
yeah.
video, that is going to be much higher.
Yeah.
So if
yeah.
it's just the two of us doing it, we didn't want to spend too much money. So we were just like, man, video is too much work, too expensive. We don't want to.
Also,
Yeah.
we didn't know how to do video at all. Audio, there was it was sort of a slow, sort of an easy learning curve on audio, but video seemed much tougher. So that was the
Yeah.
idea. Plus, I think there's more friction with just putting your face out there, right? With audio,
Yeah.
you're hiding behind in a way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's easy.
I, you know,
But you know,
somehow,
the funny thing is my wife actually studied film and video at NID, but we decided not to do any of the film and video stuff. But anyway, sorry, go ahead.
you know, I somehow feel when you do audio only recordings, the conversations are more authentic, and you know, just like very natural and original instead of how it is on a video. And especially when you do offline video recordings, oh my god, that's like even more mechanical conversation, as an experience that I have had. I'm not sure if you
100%.
agree to that.
Very recently had that experience, very recently, where we were trying our first YouTube video, which was not live. So we started doing this 30-day live YouTube challenge or whatever, where we put out 30 days back to back, just Sahil and I talking about a random business idea or a topic, right? We did that fairly smoothly because it was live on Zoom, come talk and be done with it. We tried to do a more produced video, and for that we had to do like offline recording. We got somebody to help us out and stuff like that. Oh my god, that was significantly more difficult. Like we bombed it. We've just put it on back on shelf right now because we have other priorities. We were like, oh, that's so much more effort. I completely agree. It's more authentic. We keep our videos on during the podcast. It's not recorded, but it helps in conversation. But just the audio out, people don't have to worry about how they're looking, where they're looking. Just talk, like just get to the meat of the conversation.
Yeah. Do you think how you were referring that YouTube has a better, let's say, SEO discoverability and all of that? As standalone audio podcasts, and actually podcast is audio only. It's just now people have changed the definition of it and all of that. So do you think these audio platforms don't have that discoverability? You know, how much strong it is on YouTube? Because like when you search, let's say, Pepper Spotlight, the first thing that will come up is what's there on our website, some blogs that we have written about it, blah blah blah, all of those things. Spotify, Hubhopper, Anchor, all of those things might come up, let's say, towards the end of the first page or maybe on the second page also. What do you have to say about, because you know you were starting this like 1 year back, 10, 11 months back, and you know this was the content property that, you know, the content genre that you were going for. Did you not think about the discoverability factor of podcasts?
We
To
didn't
be
think
honest.
about it because we didn't know about it.
Yeah,
Like we honestly didn't.
honestly no idea what was happening, right? The idea was It's not like we did some deep research on what podcasting is and where it could go and any of that. We knew that this content thesis that we have had some legs. If not legs, it got us curious enough to pursue it. That's all that happened in the initial few months, right? We didn't even care about discoverability, to be very honest, because it took some time for us to figure out what is it that we're taking to the world, right? Our content sort of
Yeah.
iterated, evolved, all of those things. A lot of
Yeah.
these things came later on. Oh, how do people get discovered? And a very
Mm.
simple difference between, I think, YouTube and Spotify, for example, is your YouTube is going to look very different from your YouTube feed is going to look very different from my YouTube feed is going to look very different from Sahil's YouTube feed, right? So there's that personalization angle that YouTube is very good at. Versus
Yeah.
on podcasts, Spotify is trying to do something on these lines, but in general, podcasts are static charts, so to say, where top
Mm.
10 business, top 10 entrepreneurship, top 10 marketing, and all of that, right? Now, that what that does is top 1%, 10% of the creators who already have
Yeah.
an audience will get there. But the new discoverability is sort of broken. I think Spotify is trying to change that, but I think early days right now compared to where YouTube is.
And
Yeah.
also a lot of the numbers are there's there are question marks about the numbers. Like in whenever we try to get on a guest, they always ask us like, oh, like how many views or how many whatever your podcast gets, and we give them the term downloads. But that downloads term, there's a lot of question mark about like how do you measure
Yeah.
it, what does it mean, etc., etc. And Spotify gives different numbers, Apple gives different numbers, Buzzsprout gives different numbers. If I go
Yeah.
to the back end of my Apple, and if I look at the back end of my Buzzsprout is where I host my
Yeah.
podcast, it'll give me different numbers for how many Apple downloads I got. Now it's just
Yeah.
it's just very messed up. And podcasts have been around for many years, but I think they're
Yeah.
still evolving very fast. And we're going to see a lot
Yeah.
of like change happening in the next couple of years.
Something very similar happened with us as well. And we started with Buzzsprout, and uh, because then Buzzsprout doesn't allow you to be on some of these Indian apps, right? Hubhopper, JioSaavn, Gaana. Then you have to
Yeah.
manually upload every episode on all of these platforms. So then we moved from Buzzsprout to no, you don't
No,
have to
not true.
do.
We're on JioSaavn, and that's fine. We're on Ghana, that's fine. Uh,
No, does it
yeah,
distribute from
yeah, it
Buzzsprout?
distributes
Got
from
it.
I think
Buzzsprout
you have to do
using
it. You have to do the manual effort once.
yeah. You have to
Achha, you have to just link the RSS
Yeah.
feed and
Yeah.
then automatically, okay, that happens. Okay, got it, good. And then, so Amazon Music and some other platforms also,
Yeah,
no, then
it's
you have to
fine.
do manual.
Yeah, just one manual
Okay,
effort, and
once you have to
then
do,
it's automatic.
then it happens automatically. Oh, nice, great. So we were first on Buzzsprout, and it was giving us the download numbers and all of those things, and we were like, yeah, but what about the number of listens and everything else? And so then we started redirecting our audience to YouTube, and we were like, YouTube, we were getting direct like numbers about it and broader and in-depth analytics about from where we are getting these users and all of those things. So that's why we sort of focused on making this more like, let's do video. One more thing that it helps is you can make clips out of it for, let's say, reels or Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever, anything that you
That
want
I
to
think
do.
is huge. Although for people who are listening, who are deciding podcast or YouTube, one of the things that I think has worked in our favor is podcast retentions are generally much higher than YouTube videos. And when I say retention,
Yeah.
it's per episode. What's the percentage that people are listening to, right? Some of our good episodes have had 80-90% retentions
These
on
are 1 hour
average.
episodes.
These are 1 hour
Uh,
episodes, right? And some of our on an average, I think a 40-minute episode we'll have a 60 to 70% retention on an average. We've
yeah.
had some bad episodes, good episodes, all of that. The same thing on YouTube, because you're sort of pounded with so many options on the side, so many recommendations. Something else is pulling your attention, another tab is pulling your attention. A lot of those
Mm,
happens. A lot of those things happen, and basically the retention on YouTube videos is much lower. So what
yeah.
we've realized, I think, is we have our top of the funnel is small because we're not as big on YouTube, but our connect with our audience is much stronger, right? We'll get to the
Yeah.
community aspect, we'll get to what
Yeah.
we've done with the WhatsApp newsletter and all of that.
Yeah.
That has created a more deeper relation with probably fewer people than we would have on if we were on YouTube.
Yeah. I think it makes more sense also when you have higher engagement rates rather than just having great reach. it doesn't matter if you have like 10,000 subscribers, but only 100 people are watching that video, right? But if you have, let's say, 1,000 followers or
Yeah.
whatever subscribers, and then 100 people, 200 people are watching it and listening to
So
it. So that engagement rate is much better.
there's this really good concept by I forgot the name of the author. Sorry about that. But so originally there was this whole concept about 1,000 true fans, right? If you get 1,000 true fans who pay you
Yeah.
$100 a year, then you'll be able to build $100,000 business. Then there was this lady, Lee Jin. Yeah, her name is Lee Jin. She started this VC fund in the US called Atelier, which is only focused on what she calls passion economy startups.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she took that concept of 1,000 fans and made it into 100 super fans. So
Yeah.
instead of having 1,000 fans who are kind of engaged, you have 100 fans who are super engaged, 100 fans who are willing to pay you $1,000 a year for the content that you create or the coursework that you create or whatever that is. And it's that I think with YouTube, getting to that 1,000 kind of fans is very easy, but getting to that 100 true fans might be slightly harder. While I think with podcasting, it might be the other way around, where making those 100 true fans, super fans, might be a lot easier. In fact, the newsletter that I released today was specifically because one of our users asked for it, one of our listeners asked for it. And then later on, I sent him the link on WhatsApp, and he was like, "Oh my God, you guys are really servicing your super fans." I was like, "Oh yeah, I guess we kind of are." And that was like, yeah, that was nice to hear.
Yeah. And, I think somewhere a little bit of my bias comes in when I favor YouTube into all of this. And I'll tell you why. Because I have had YouTube Premium since when it was available. And I can listen to podcasts on YouTube even when my phone is like locked and, I am on different tabs and all of those things. So for me, it doesn't really matter whether it's YouTube or whether it's, let's say, Spotify when I'm listening to a podcast. But for people who get ads and cannot listen to it because they have to be engrossed into that podcast, I think for them it might be a little different than how I am. And I'm just realizing this bias that I have in this conversation. So yes, I have to do that a little bias check.
I'll give you an example of exactly what you said. About a month or two ago, we did a voluntary contribution. Like we've made like 70, 80 episodes by then. We were like, why don't you give us some money, please? And one of the people gave us a lot of money. And we were just like, why did you send us so much money? And he said that I listen to you guys 2 or 3 times a week in my ear while I'm going for my walk. For me, this amount of money for the amount of content that you guys have made for me is not a big deal whatsoever. Because he's not doing anything else, right? He's not doing anything else. He's just listening and he's walking. And like our voices, this voice that you're hearing right now is just constantly going through his ear. So obviously he'll form some kind of attachment.
Yeah.
Poor
Tell me
guy,
this, because the whole how you were referring about Legion and 1,000 true fans and 100 super fans and all of that. How do you see this going for India? And I've done a lot of these conversations, but I want to know from both of you as to how you feel about this. I feel the whole subscription based and pay for content thing, how it is different for India is because we don't even pay for our own Netflix. Or to give you an example, when Friends Reunion was released, I did not pay for Z5. I got it from somebody, and that's how I used it. Even when I'm like a hardcore fan, and I want to watch that Friends Reunion thing.
Wait, there's a Friends reunion? I didn't even know that.
What
world are you living in?
It's such a big campaign about it.
I used to be a big, I don't own a TV. I don't watch TV, so I don't know this stuff.
Yeah, but this was all over the internet.
Exactly. We'll come to that, how Sahil doesn't know about Friends Reunion, even when being a Friends fan. But what I was saying is, so I feel this whole pay for content thing, how this problem is not, let's say, based for creators or the SaaS products that are there. I think it's more audience problem. We have to make our audience understand that guys, if you're reading something or if you're consuming something that's very great, high quality, you should pay for it in order for us to give you better experience of this content. But because we don't even pay for our Netflix or whatever, Z5 and all of those things, I feel it's really difficult to get those 100 super fans. But to also give you like a pointer about this, how micro payments are coming up for content. Like you can pay 5 rupees for a poetry 10 rupees for an article or 20 rupees, or do that voluntary, like YouTube maybe now you can do that. You can just pay $20 to a YouTuber and all of that. So I think that is like a start, slowly, like how Geo did, giving first smaller, very cheaper, and then making them to pay $100 and all of that. But what do you guys think about this whole subscription based content thing?
Just to add on the micro payments thing, I think Spotify and Apple subscriptions on the podcast are also going to be very interesting in terms of monetizing it.
Yeah,
So that's coming up. But I think I'm with you. Just getting people to pay for pure content is an uphill battle in India. um, I think it's an uphill battle across. It's tougher here. uh, I don't do it, so I don't expect anybody else to do it, which is why our monetization strategy, and we'll get to that later, has been
yeah,
very cognizant of the fact that pure play content monetization in India is going to be difficult. So what else are you bringing to the table?
yeah. But
So
at least in the US, these companies like Patreon, Substack, they are very commonly like talked about. In India, I don't think people still know what is Substack or Patreon and all of those things. There are some Indian-based organizations who are doing this kind of subscription-based payments, but I don't think we talk about them enough.
you
I think
know,
that's also one thing that creators should start talking about it. Uh,
so
Sorry,
Pavan,
Sahil, you were referring, huh?
yeah. So Pavan, you were talking about how we don't pay for Netflix. I actually use my sister's account for Netflix, and she's based in the US. So even I'm getting my Netflix for free from the US. You were talking, yeah, you just mentioned Substack and all. I find it funny that you say that in India we don't have, people don't talk about Substack enough. But I'm a part of a couple of writers groups, and therefore I just constantly see Substacks. I'm just like, oh my god, how many Substacks will there be? Because when you're starting off, it's free and it's a very easy platform to use.
Yeah, yeah,
um, but talking a couple of months ago, Siddharth and I sat down and we decided that one of us needs to write our monetization plan, because we've been doing this for like 8-9 months at that point, and we're just like, dude, if you're going to like continue this for the long run, we have to make some money out of it, so that at least
yeah,
the motivation is there, so that we can outsource things, so that we don't have to do everything ourselves. Because at that point, even now, we do editing, guest sourcing, everything. It's a lot of work. I think each
yeah,
episode is about 7 to 10 hours of work.
yeah,
And Immediately we both decided that getting Indians to pay for content is not going to work, because the thing is that we've already put out so much high quality content out there for free. Now telling somebody
hmm,
that either I can limit, I can make my content of a lower quality, nobody's going to
hmm,
accept that, right?
yeah,
Or I can put out some really crazy high quality content, and then people will pay for that. So something
yeah,
like an interview with Elon Musk or with Ratan Tata or something like that, right? But we're not going to get Elon Musk or Ratan Tata on our show.
yeah,
So we have to really think about like, okay, so how do we go about thinking about content, about monetization? So we thought like content is not the play for us. We decided to instead go for the community play, where going back to the 100 true fans kind of model. How can we really give them some value additions outside of content? So like, how can we make their businesses more efficient? How can we make their careers more efficient?
hmm,
Can we help them connect to other people in having similar problems?
yeah,
Because like a lot of family businesses have very similar problems, but they don't have anybody to talk to, because family business owners oftentimes it's very lonely on the top. You only talk to your dad, your mom, right? So that is how we were thinking about monetization instead of getting subscribers, because I don't think it's very realistic right now, at least.
got it. Siddharth, do you want to add something to that, or?
Yeah, I think the community play has existed. So that was another metric that we were looking at. People already pay for a lot of these communities, right?
Yeah,
YPO and Entrepreneurs Organization, EO, and a bunch of other communities that people pay yearly fee
yeah,
for. We are just building the digital first modern sort of community, right? Which is content is one part of it. The connections with other people is one part of it. Learning and development workshops is one part of it. Just exchanging of ideas is one part of it. Just bunch of different things. We can bring in deals,
yeah,
right? Anybody who wants to target SMEs, we can do bulk deals. A lot of those things can happen. So that we thought was monetizable with decent revenues compared
Yeah.
to just making people pay for content.
Yeah. You know, when we talk about the word community, and this is back like 3 years, 4 years, 5 years back when I was, just discovering about how to build these things. The very first organization, or let's say community, that I found out was, even when they are not termed it as community, I still feel BNI and how they have built a network with ambassadors, different chapters, and people pay like 35,000, 40,000. Some BNI networks are like what 50,000, 1 lakh, and you cannot like get entry into Mumbai ka jo South Bombay ka chapter hai. Over there you don't get it. It's like community में entry नहीं है. So that was like one of the model that I was really looking at globally. Some things in India, I think Network Capital does it really well. I think that's like a good community that started through Facebook groups and then really expanded and did a lot of other things. There was this other community about this is called Pune Pune ladies, basically. That's how the full form is, and it's called Pula. And they have like 3 lakh, 4 lakh some members into it, and all they talk about on that is, and it's a female only. So like, one of my friends used to tell me, "What are we talking on the group today?" And they will literally talk about anything. Like somebody wants a cooking recipe, so what should I put next into this? How to cook butter chicken? How to make halwa? Anything, literally anything. And
So,
that's also like a very strongly engaged hyper local community. But just want to know from you both as to, when you say you want to build a community around this, what do you mean by that, as to what will this community be like?
One,
so
BNI, dude. Just let's pause and let's appreciate what they've created. For people who don't know what BNI is,
Yeah.
try and go for one of their meetings. Somebody took me, and I was just fascinated on what this organization was. There is no authority in the room technically, but everybody is following the rules of 30 seconds
Yeah.
of like introductions, and
Yeah.
you have to stand and sit down. And it was a cult. I mean, sorry, it
Yeah.
was a cult.
Yeah.
And I got very fascinated and started reading about who this person was. He actually graduated from the same college that Sahil and I graduated, by the way. That guy who started BNI.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, we
Even I
both
didn't know
we
that.
were, we both went to USC, and
Hmm.
the person who started BNI is actually a USC alum.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
But going back to community, first of all, Pawan, one of the things that we have discussed on our podcast, I think at least 3 or 4 times, is how community managers is going to be like a very in-demand job in the future. So, Pawan, I think you're in the right field. But you mentioned hyper-local communities. You mentioned like very specific niche communities, and I really believe that is going to be something that's going to be big.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example. I was talking to a Canadian guy a couple of months ago. He's actually part of one of our WhatsApp groups, and this Canadian guy has just a design community based in Canada, and he has 2,000 people paying $5 a month. No, sorry. Yeah, I think it's $5 a month or $10 a month, just to be part of a Slack community where they discuss job ideas or job boards, or they discuss different design stuff and stuff like that. And that's it. So he earns a significant amount of money and obviously networks with a lot of people
Hmm.
just by focusing on this niche. And I've
Yeah.
seen like these kind of hyper local communities being built in the US and being built in other parts of the world, where for a specific neighborhood or for like a large geographical area, they'll have a community of something very specific.
Yeah.
And
Though
so,
these Facebook pages, right? Flat and Flatmates.
yeah,
I mean, they have like 2 lakh, 5 lakh members, and
but
people
they're
are
all
like,
free. But they're all free.
they're all free. Yeah,
You
yeah.
can make it paid. A lot. The ones I'm talking about are paid. So
No,
one
no,
of
these
the
guys also make money out of it. So
Yeah.
what you can do is, you post it, and some people like ask for money before approving that post. If you want to sell it, they will also keep sharing that image or that particular post and again. Then you have to make. They do brand partnerships. With, I think once I saw was with MyGate, the MyGate app that a lot of societies use. So they had a partnership with one of these pages. To give you example of more such hyper local Facebook groups is So I was part of this Aurangabad ka buyers and sellers group. Okay, and this is a Facebook group which has, I don't know, literally all shop owners from the city. I'm saying all shop owners. Like imagine cloth, textile, hardware, electronics, literally everyone. And anybody needs anything, they'll just post it up over there. And the most engagement I saw in that group was during this lockdown as to how they used to plan about, no, we will open the shops tomorrow. Literally in the second wave, when the government announced that, this city will be under lockdown, all of them said that, no, we will still open the shops. And they all did open the shops. Even when the government and the collector said that, it's a curfew and it's a lockdown, they did not listen to it. And I think
Yeah.
that, I mean, they're using the community in a different manner here,
Yeah.
but it's really about how they're coming together and standing for something. So, really crazy and really exciting. This whole space is becoming day by day. Tell me
Yeah.
about how you guys are using WhatsApp groups or the newsletter and creating other content around the podcast to build your community.
Yeah. So we started with just one podcast. I think that was hosting founders to talk about how they've built the businesses. That was our initial thesis. Every podcast out there on entrepreneurship, on business, I think starts out like this. I think. So we started out like that, and eventually realized that hey, there are other ways of sort of taking the same message. It could be through writing, it could be through other mediums of podcast and stuff like that. So we evolved. We now do multiple segments on the podcast itself. I think have 3 or 4 segments on the podcast.
Hmm.
A separate newsletter which covers trends, side hustles, or 2 3 editions of the newsletter, 2 3 different types of newsletters. So we've increased the content, sort of the kind of content that we touch on. What we were very cognizant of from the very beginning, and this is because of a conversation that we had with Abhinav Chikara of 10K Designers, where he said he had gone through that same journey of building an audience, building a community, and he said emails just don't work in India, right? You're
Hmm.
part of so much spam that goes out, and I do this every single month when I'm cleaning up my inbox, and 15 days later you've subscribed to X many things, and your
Hmm.
inbox is polluted again. So we made sure that email was not how we were going to build audience. We needed something
Hmm.
else, and WhatsApp became that piece where we
Yeah.
realized that everybody opens WhatsApp, right? And we
Yeah.
started to see some newsletter happen on WhatsApp back then. So we were like, let's just go ahead and try and build it on WhatsApp. We never thought it'd be 10 groups, which is what we are at right now. We thought it'd be a couple of groups, so easy to manage, and just we'll figure it out. So we
One
did
second, you're
groups.
talking about groups and not like broadcast list.
No, so
No.
that was
So these are like 2,500 some people constantly chatting and
Yeah.
sending
No, no,
messages
no,
under
no.
so
this.
so
This
so
is
we
admin
did
only. This is admin
so
only.
this is
Oh, okay.
admin only, and we segregated that. So we have another where people can chat and do whatever, and we thought we'd be able to control the discussions there. We gave up. We realized
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
absolutely that group for the longest period became a crypto group, right? When everything was good in the crypto market, everybody was just discussing crypto. And since the crash, nobody has uttered the word BTC, ETH, crypto, anything like that, right? So there is a separate group for that. But our idea was, let's let's have a direct connect with our people, right? Especially
Hmm.
with podcast or YouTube or newsletter is slightly different, but podcast, YouTube, you have no idea who your listener is, right? There is no two-way communication. It's my
Hmm.
voice going there, but I can't hear them in terms of their feedback and what do they want, what do they like, what do they don't like, right? So we were
Hmm.
very cognizant of that, and what we did, everybody that joined our WhatsApp group, we initiated a one-on-one conversation.
I think we should say the story of why we started doing that. So very early on,
So you're
when
saying
I
2,500 people say आप लोगों ने
we have
one-on-one
chatted with
con.
every single one of them.
I
We have
mean, we've
chatted.
sent the first message, I think 20-30% response. So about, yeah, 750
Yeah, I
people
want
so
to know
far.
why you guys did that. Please,
Yeah,
yeah.
so there's a story behind it. The story is basically when we were very initial days, we had maybe 100 people in our WhatsApp group, and then suddenly one night we just see like 150 people join our WhatsApp group, and we were forced to make a new WhatsApp group, and we're just like, what the hell is happening? Why are so many people joining our WhatsApp group? And then my wife was sitting there, and she said, and she has an Instagram page as well. She has an Instagram page about gardening, and she has 7,000 followers there, and she also messages every single person who follows her. So she said that if you do this, you will be able to build a connect, and you will be able to know why this person is joining your group, or why this person is following you. So then you'll be able to build content around that. You'll be able to have a better connect, and you'll be able to understand where you should be, what direction you should be moving. And this has really guided our content for a long time, significantly, because because of that, we messaged all those people, and what had happened was that somebody had shared our WhatsApp group link on some other WhatsApp group, and then everybody from that WhatsApp group joined our WhatsApp group. That's happened to us 4 or 5 times, and it's helped a lot. And yeah, so now we talk to every single person who joins. Siddharth and I take turns. Siddhartha is doing it this month. I'm going to do it again next month. And we've learned that okay, a lot of kids join us, and kids want to learn this, like college kids. Or otherwise, we've realized that there are a lot of people who listen to us who are working in Walmart or Flipkart or some big company like that. They're like 25, and they want to leave, and they want to start their own business, right? And so that's the reason we actually started writing newsletters about side hustles, because a lot of these people were talking about, like, I want to do something on the side. I'm so like bored of my corporate job. And it has really impacted the way we make content.
Yeah, it's basically, I think it's fed into our gut now. Those conversations have basically resulted in better gut instinct on what kind of content will work or not work, right? Because we have this mental sort of image of the kind of people that are there on the group. I think that's helped. We've actually had really good conversations. We've met really interesting people. We've gotten calls with a lot of these folks that we've had good WhatsApp conversations on about, and there's no agenda. There's just, hey, let's talk, right? I like what you guys are doing. Here's my story, and we just end up talking.
A couple of our guests have been from these conversations.
Yeah, that's true.
Wow.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's been an exploration for us. I think because when we told you, there was no planning. There was this thesis, and let's get started. And I've reflected back on this, right? And I think we hinted on the fact of action and what you were talking about, friends talking but not materializing into things. I've had that with most of my projects before the podcast and after the podcast, right? And one of the things that I've now looked back is there was no giant plan. There was just our curiosity, and we said, let's get started and let's see how it evolves. What I've come to realize is there's a difference between not having that giant plan and lacking ambition. We're very ambitious with what we want to do with the podcast, right? We're thinking 5 years, 10 years ahead. We want to keep this sustainable, and yeah, Sahil, we are. We want to keep this sustainable and all of those things, but we never took any pressure on distribute कैसे करेंगे या monetize कैसे करेंगे. All of those things were just never a question. Let's just pure chase our curiosity. Let's see how things evolve. I think that's been.
There's this term that goes around on Twitter a lot, building in public. And recently, a couple of months ago, one of our listeners came back and told us, what I like about you guys are not building in public, but you guys are curious in public. So we just go out and we're curious about something, we look it up. We were curious about what's going on with hemp in India. We did a podcast about it. We were curious about IoT. We did a podcast about it. So yeah, that's just kind of how how we keep evolving.
Few thoughts I totally make sense. That you should personally also DM everyone who's like joining your group, or maybe following you as well. I had seen this Neil Patel video where everyone who has, so he says in that video that if somebody has mentioned you in a story before, they are more likely to mention you again. So what you should do is every time somebody mentions you in a story, write them a personalized, like a standard template DM, and you will notice that if they have not mentioned you in the past like 3-4 months, a lot of times there's a tool, and then you can automatically just DM all of them. And bizarre, like, so it's not just about the tool that he's using or the technology, or the thought also and the psychology also behind this, that people who have already mentioned you, they are more likely to do that. And I think if you build that stronger connect with people initially itself, like when they are following you, or when they are joining your group, it can become like a more like longer and long lasting kind of connection.
Pawan, what you just mentioned is exactly why we're having this conversation, because Pepper on Instagram mentioned our podcast, which is
Hmm.
why I commented, which is why I DM'd you, which is why we hosted Rishabh, and which is why we are now here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it is taking those lessons, and you
yeah,
have to be very active. You have to be very like constantly messaging people, thanking them,
yeah,
constantly doing that. Yeah.
yeah. Do you
I
think
think another silent aspect of what that direct messages that people have done for us, I think, is a lot of times when you're creating content where there's no immediate validation or immediate feedback, you often end up wondering if what you're doing even has any value to anyone, right? Are you just wasting your time? And especially during the early days, right? When you're putting in a lot of effort, but you're not hearing anything. It's crickets, because it's the podcast as a medium. Newsletter, we had like about 100 subscribers back then. But these one-on-one conversation resulted in people telling us, dude, like, I've been hearing your podcast for 3 days nonstop. I'm going to finish your entire library in three
hmm,
days. Things like this has really added value. I'm pursuing one of these ideas. I think those conversations very subconsciously also told us that we were creating value. Maybe not for hundreds and thousands of people, but we were making a difference in somebody's life with this content. And I think that went a long way. Just being consistent, just showing up week on week, and then just creating this.
You know what?
yeah.
We actually created a separate WhatsApp group where we send screenshots of the nice things people say. So,
Oh,
uh,
nice,
Yeah.
so
nice.
it's like it makes us feel better a little
Yeah.
bit. But there's been no screenshots for about a couple of weeks. So now maybe
So
we're going in the wrong direction.
I'm going to ask you guys two last questions, and then I'm going to ask Sahil why does he go to sleep at 9:30 p.m. But the first one out of those two questions is, do you think people don't use the full potential of the internet because uh, it's basically you can DM anybody, you can cold email anybody, you can start anything, you can start writing, you can start designing on Canva, Figma, whatever. You can be an entrepreneur. You can be an entrepreneur on the side. You can do so many things on the side. You can literally be a YouTuber. You can be anybody, you can be everybody, you can be anything. You can reach out to literally anybody. But do you think people are using the full potential of the internet?
I'll divide people in two categories: 25 plus and 25 below. We both are 31, 32. Um, we've had this discussion. I hate the fact that we graduated back in 2010, 11, when a lot of these things were just coming
Hmm.
up, right? We
Hmm.
had no idea about these creator economy and side hustles and what you could do. Where he said, graduate, get a job, do MS, do my MBA, whatever. That was the playbook. But what I see kids doing these days, it's absolutely nuts. There are some 22, 23, 24-year olds that are just building their lives on the internet, right? Like creating content on the internet, making connections on the internet. I think those people are going to truly make, use of the internet and the power of the internet. I think beyond 25, because we are not internet native, or maybe 27, we are not internet native, right? A large part of our lives was not internet related, social media and a lot of those things. It's really 2010s that has really changed it, right? So I think the younger generation is
Yeah.
going to do it significantly better than the older generation when it comes to internet potential.
Neither of us have Instagram on our phones. This might
Yeah.
What?
shock all the people below 25 listening to this. Neither of us have
No,
Instagram.
no Facebook, no Instagram. We don't have any social apps on our phone
No
except, I guess,
Snapchat.
WhatsApp. No
No Snapchat.
Snapchat. I mean, I don't know if it's even. Yeah.
Oh, now I think I have three questions. Why why you don't have this? So you use it via your laptop and scheduler, or like you don't use the
I don't use
platforms at all?
Instagram. I mean, I won't say I don't use Instagram. I would just land up there somehow, somewhere once in 2, 3, 4 days, and I will just scroll for like 2, 3, 5 minutes and just be done with it. But there was a time when I would just scroll endlessly on Instagram, right? And I think that was a very sort of self-conscious decision on choosing my social platforms, so to say.
Hmm.
I stuck to Twitter and very recently LinkedIn, because I've now realized the power of
Hmm.
LinkedIn distribution.
Yeah.
It was Twitter for me, right? It was the kind of content that I related to, and it was more forward looking, versus Instagram was FOMO. It was just
Hmm.
I mean, this is I was going through some rough patches in life, and I would open Instagram and see these people just having the best times of their life, right? And I
Yeah.
just decided it didn't help me. It didn't do anything for me. People
Hmm.
who I wanted to stay in touch with were on WhatsApp. I had a one-on-one relationship to stay in touch with them.
Yeah.
I didn't care where they were on a day-to-day basis. If there was something important, I would get a message. I would get a picture from them, regardless, right? So Instagram was out because of that. Again, one of the things that I probably regret, because apparently business content is flying on Instagram these days.
Yeah, that's what I was going to come to.
So
Business, finance.
exactly, it's flying. So we both discussed this. We were like, have we missed a trick there? Should we get on Instagram? So it was a very conscious decision, I think, as I went along, where choosing my social platforms and removing everything from my phone. But again, I think everything, all the time that I saved from Instagram and all those platforms has gone into Twitter, which I don't know is good or bad, but yeah.
So I'll tell you what my perspective on this is, that I used to be addicted to Instagram, and I consider myself a decent photographer. And I used to be very, very obsessed with the kind of photos I take, and exactly how I'm going to caption it to get the exact number of likes, and all of that stuff, right? I was obsessed with Instagram. And then around the same time, I was also obsessed with another app called Strava. Strava is basically like Instagram, but for running and cycling. So I used to do a lot of running. I've run a lot of marathons. I've run ultra marathons. So I'm kind of obsessed with that too. And I was so obsessed with the validation on that as well, right? I would go on a 3 hour run, and the entire time I would be thinking, okay, what is going to be the title of this run? I realized that I was not living in the moment. I was getting so obsessed with how I'm going to get validated by other people. And I was just like, I can't live my life like this. And I decided to delete Instagram. I decided to delete Strava, and I feel like my life has been much better since then, because
Yeah.
I'm not obsessed with.
The podcast has suffered, but Sahil's life is better. So
Yeah.
Yeah, no regrets over there.
No regrets, yeah, whatsoever.
yeah.
No, I think, every individual, if, they don't enjoy it, or, they don't feel healthy about using it, I think they shouldn't forcefully do it, even if the trend is over there, or whatever business content is scaling up, or any of those sort. I don't think it really helps if you don't enjoy doing it.
But,
Yeah.
Pawan, I think we would suck at it, right? It's that's also the case, that because we don't enjoy it, because we've come to that point where we don't like it, we don't have it on our phones, and we gave up on it for a couple of years, right? So Instagram moved significantly. When I was there, it was just people posting pictures,
Now it's all
right?
reels.
Now it's all reels. There's so many
Yeah.
brands. There's so much
Yeah.
activity, right? So
Yeah.
that has moved. So I know for a fact that even if we were on it, if we forced ourselves to be on it, we would
Yeah.
suck. So
Yeah.
if we ever get on Instagram, it's going to be after we hire somebody to help us with it,
Yeah.
because we would suck with it.
What we're going to do is we're going to do dancing business memes. So like, like the reels of the reel dancing, and we'll dance to those business memes.
Exactly why we are not on Instagram. 'Cause that's the ideas that he comes up with and wants us to put it up there.
But yeah, I think no, it's completely okay if somebody doesn't want to use the particular platform, and it doesn't make sense just to be there for the sake of the trend, or if the entire world is
Yeah.
doing it.
Also, I don't want
Um,
to give Mark Zuckerberg more money.
or
That's
or
something.
our data points and
Exactly.
signals
I
to
mean,
him.
yeah, I hope, thankfully, the Indian government is doing something about WhatsApp. But yeah.
But I mean,
I'll-
let's see how it goes. We never really know what's really
Yeah.
happening.
You guys are optimists. Nice.
Dude, so one of my friends was actually a lawyer in the Facebook versus Government of India case. She was on Facebook side, but she was just like, I hate the case that I'm fighting, because like I want Facebook to lose this, and thankfully Facebook did.
I hope there is no way to trace back that friend of yours.
Yeah.
I just hope. I hope
Okay,
that
man.
there's no way to trace it back.
There's no content moderation on podcasting, so that's
Yeah.
okay. We can say anything or do whatever. Last question, and tell us about how did you guys made it up to like Apple charts, and also got like an exclusive deal with Ghana in just like 10 months.
We paid a lot of money to a lot of big people. That's how we did it.
Sure, that's not the reason. But tell us about how it happened, and how was the feeling of being there and getting that.
very organically, right? Apple was out of the blue when it happened. There was a category called inspiration for business. That was so Apple on their carousel comes up with different categories, and one of the categories they came up with was inspiration for business. And we suddenly ranked number two on it. This is second or third month into it, and we were just surprised, right? For 2 3 days, we kept checking, thinking they made a mistake and they're going to take it off, because we had barely any numbers before that, right? We had not focused on distribution. We were just doing our content, some WhatsApp group, that's it. So that was completely organic. We didn't know where it came from. The same thing on Spotify, the business charts or the Apple business charts, all of it was completely organic. We didn't have any idea on how to make it happen. We did some things right. I think Sahil's wife is a designer, by the way, and she designed our logo, which we later realized that logos make a huge difference when it
Yeah.
comes to rankings, right? Like
Mm.
that color pop up and things like that. So I think a lot of things went our way, but just pure luck. The Ghana deal was more thought through. That was something
Mm.
that we sort of wanted to make it happen, and we made it happen. Was we reached out to a bunch of different sort of podcast players to see if they do exclusive deals and if they wanted to do a
Mm.
business show and stuff like that. And one of the things that we were curious about was vernacular content, was doing content in Hindi, right?
Mm.
The idea was as simple as that more reach potentially. So we wanted to explore that realm of, like, more audience, and if you could create a
Mm.
product for them or not, some sort of a mini course, whatever. So we decided, let's try and target this content, target this segment. Two ways to do it ourselves or partner with somebody else. If we did it ourselves, I think it would have hurt our bandwidth, because
Mm.
we didn't have an existing audience, so we'd still have to go build that audience, which is why the partnership thought on riding on somebody else's audience. The
Yeah.
caveat obviously is you're giving away your IP, which
Mm.
was again a thought through decision that the Indian dream, because we have more longer term plans with it, we don't want to give up that IP. We are okay creating another
Yeah.
show, to let go of that IP and in return get more reach. Very early days of the experiment, we've done about 5 or 6 episodes with
7 episodes.
7 episodes with them. We have a deal of 40 episodes. So we'll see how it goes. But again, just the idea was to get distribution, get in front of more people.
Mm. Mm. But I think through that also, it can drive traffic or let's say audience to the Indian dream, right?
Oh,
Like
that I
at
mean,
the
that was part of the contract.
yeah.
I mean, it was very specific that we're going to talk about the Indian dream in the intro itself, right?
Mm.
Because
Mm.
at the end of the day, we want to know
Yeah.
all people. We want people to know all the other content that we're creating.
Yeah.
So we advertise the Indian dream on it, and yeah.
So,
Nope. Yeah.
so the thing is that the audience that listens on Spotify and Apple is a very specific type of audience.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
this audience that listens on Ghana is a completely different type of audience. Therefore,
Yeah.
we wanted that cross pollination where we get new people listening in. And that was a very specific
Mm.
decision why we insisted that we want to talk about the Indian dream on that Ghana podcast.
Yeah. But I think the same host also being it sort of maybe drives some personal branding also, and then from there it goes to the Indian dream as well. So I think it sort of helps, and I feel that was like a great way to reach out and build your audience also in that sense. But I think this has been a very wholesome conversation. I have not realized it's been like an hour, but because this is the first time I'm hosting two guests on the episode, so I think it takes more time when there are three people talking about this. So this has gone way beyond the usual time that we have. So
We can talk
before
a
I
lot
thank,
more if you want.
yeah,
We're
no,
very used
no.
to talking. We can just keep talking and talking and
what
talking.
we'll do is maybe next week plan like an LinkedIn live or a Twitter live session and get into that kind of conversation where we're doing live conversation with some of the followers on Twitter or LinkedIn and all of that. But before we end this conversation, Sahil, give us some tips about fitness and how you every day sleep at 9:30 p.m. What time do you wake up? You also said that you run a lot of marathons, and so give us some fitness tips.
Okay, wow. So I started waking up super early because I ran marathons, right? So I used to wake up at around 5 o'clock to go running every day, and so that has become a habit. And the crazy thing is that because of that I'm an early sleeper. I sleep at 9:30, 10. and my wife is actually a late sleeper. She sleeps at like 2 a.m. So that has caused some friction, I would say. And another funny thing is that I'd spoken to the founder of Pepper, Anirudh, once, and I think he works late, right? So he told me to call him after 9 o'clock. We ended up speaking at 9:30.
Hmm.
I was so tired when I was speaking to him. I could not form full sentences. I kept apologizing. I was just like, I forgot what I was trying to say. It happened at least 5 times. You can ask him if you ever, the next time you speak to him. Um, Tips for fitness, man, I don't know. This is a much longer conversation. But during the pandemic, I got really into calisthenics. And so for the past 1 year, I've been doing, I've been trying to get into calisthenics more and more. So I can talk about marathon running, I can talk about calisthenics, and can talk about anything related to fitness if you want. It's one of my passions.
Yeah, he's at Sahil071 on Twitter. DM him so that he uses Twitter more often.
Oh, also, actually, what I'm really into is rock climbing. That's my favorite sport.
Dude,
How
I've
do you
seen
get
him.
time?
I've never seen somebody watch YouTube videos of rock climbing. Like, I don't know what's the point of watching a YouTube video of just seeing a man climb, but I've legit seen Sahil just on his phone, just, oh, I was watching a rock climbing video.
Wow.
I do this probably for hours every day. But
You know what we should do? We should maybe record or just have another conversation where it's just random charcha about what all Sahil does, how is he, what is he doing in the day, about his dog, and all of those things. I think that's going to be a super
That's
fun
the
session altogether.
100%.
okay, I can talk about my dog all day. Let's do it.
Super, but thank you so much, guys, again for giving us this time. I think there has been really fun and a lot of things. Maybe we'll cover a lot of other aspects about podcasting and everything else in the LinkedIn live or the Twitter live session that we'll do in the week when we release this episode. But thank you so much for giving your time.
Thanks a lot, Pawan. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks a
I've
lot,
never
Pawan.
said this before.
Yeah, we've never said it was fun being on this side, not having the pressure of creating the outline or doing anything. And now I feel like what the guests go through, which is just answer because
Did you
they
have
know the
fun
journey.
then to be a guest? Is it fun on the host side or it's fun on the guest side?
I think it's fun on the guest side. There's no
Yeah.
preparation, right? You're just relaying the journey that you've lived versus like as a host, you're figuring out where the
Yeah.
conversation needs to go, what kind
Yeah.
of questions, all of those things.
You know, one funny thing is, whenever we get a guest, they always start with, "Oh, thank you so much for having us on the show." And every time I'm editing, I always cut that out because I'm just like, yeah, it sounds so bad. And now I realize when I was on this show that, oh shit, I have to say it.
Yeah,
I have to
basic
say that,
courtesy
like,
and
hey,
all
thanks
of
for
that.
having me on
Yeah.
the show.
Yeah.
So yeah,
No, but
thanks a lot for having us on the show.
I'm not gonna cut this one, but super guys. I hope you enjoyed listening to this conversation. If you want to check out their podcast, please check this link in the description of this episode. You can go and visit and listen to the Indian Dream podcast. I had a lot of fun interacting with Sahil and Siddharth. I hope you all also like this conversation. If you did like the conversation, please share it on your Insta story or Twitter, wherever you are active on. We would love to hear your feedback about the show. If you have any recommendations, guest suggestions, or in general questions or appreciation for us, please go ahead, send it us on DM, on Instagram or Twitter or wherever you are active on. The next episode of Pepper Spotlight is going to be about how you all can make super awesome videos without knowing all the pro skills of video editing or having those all softwares. Uh, let's find that out in next week on Pepper Spotlight, Wednesday, 3 p.m. We release these episodes on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Hubhopper, Ghana, JioSaavn, Spotify, anywhere, any audio app that you have in your phone, you will find us over there. But till that time, take care and stay safe.